Women Innovators. Interviews with women with big messages and big missions, sharing their stories to inspire you to live your passion and step up to make the world a better place. Here's your host, Tammy Patzer.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited because today's guest is a life and leadership coach from Louisville, Kentucky, Jennifer Blair, and her company is Excavive. Now, think about that. What the heck does Excavive mean? And we're going to find out. So, welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here today with you.
Good. I want to tell everyone a little bit more about you because you have an interesting background, and I'm sure many of us can relate. Many of our listeners can relate. So I just want to tell you a little bit more about Jennifer. So she is someone who has embraced every moment of motherhood and community involvement. And like many of us, she survived a heartbreaking divorce and reinvented herself with a career that she loves today. So I'm just going to give you that much of a hint. But tell me, Jennifer, how did you create Excavive and what does that mean?
Okay, great. I love this question because it does exactly what I wanted it to do when I created the name, and that was to create curiosity. So back in 2003, I was in my coach's training through the Coaches Training Institute and going to Chicago every month and fast-tracking becoming a coach. And at that time, life coaching was kind of new on the scene. I mean, that was 17 years ago. And I saw a lot of people creating companies called Live Your Best Life or Have a Great Life. And I thought, I want to do something that's going to be a little different and interesting and something that would just be one name to create curiosity. So I gathered my best friend and my graphic designer, and we went to lunch at a place called Lynn's Paradise Cafe here in Kentucky that used to be this funky, fun breakfast place, and sat for 3 hours and brainstormed names. And someone said, let's put together the Latin versions. And someone said exca, because I kept saying, let's excavate. What was really important to me was, and my coaching today still reflects this, it was really important that I'm unearthing who someone is. I'm not the type of coach who just says, oh, you want to reach this goal. Okay, let's do this goal. I say, well, why that goal? And who are you? And how do you really align who you are with how you show up in the world and what you want to do? So Excavive, to excavate your life, became my company name, and it became the umbrella for many things I hoped to create at the time. I didn't know that I would do other things such as inspirational speaking and become an author, but I did know that I wanted to do more than just coaching. So it's Excavive Coaching and Excavive Speaking, Excavive Writing. So I have different branches like an umbrella name. So that's how Excavive, we came up with it, did a search, found out that no one else had come up with that name before. And within a month, my graphic designer had created the logo. I know your readers can't see it, but if you look on my website and see the name, the V of Excavive, it has a V and a little dot underneath, which represents a pearl. So you're unearthing treasure. So that's the treasure of yourself, like the pearls of wisdom that you can create from really having better understanding.
I saw that little dot and I was wondering, and so one of the things that I'm liking about what you're saying is it's really inspiring to hear how you had an idea and it was like, how do I become different? And so, like you said, you got your best friend and your graphic designer and you went out to lunch. And
we did.
And you spent that time being creative and allowing yourself to be open. And isn't that cool that something as simple as you said, that circle, that dot represents excavating the pearl or the jewel of who you are and the life. And it's all like kind of subliminal, but
absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah. Even my company colors, the color I chose at the time was turquoise, and that represents your upper heart chakra. I had just been through a divorce 2 years before. I was still in that healing phase. So I did tons of healing modalities like yoga and therapy and anything I could find. And so I chose colors that represented, that bringing all good things to life, from that heart place. And then purple is also such a regal color as well. So even today, everything I do in my business is branded to really reflect what it is I'm trying to create out in the world for people.
Wow. I can tell you that you've really put a lot of thought into that. And you're also, you're part of Tam Luke's BossUp project. And I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that later. But you also have a couple books. You've got your first book is The True You, Tools to Excavate, Explore, and Evolve. And then you have a second edition of that, The True You, Reimagined, Discover Your Authentic Self, that just came out in June. And then you have a workbook, The True You Workbook, Tools to Reimagine Your Life. So you've been at this for about 20 years now?
Just under 20 years, yes, I have been. And the amazing thing about it is I ask myself, every year, are you still relevant? Do you still want to do this? Do you still enjoy this? And I continue to find ways to connect with my work, I love my clients, connect with the people I work with, and my creativity is a huge part of what keeps me inspired. So that's definitely a big part of it. And these books certainly reflect and represent that.
So the guidebook or the workbook, the companion to your new authentic self, The True You Reimagined, Discover Your Authentic Self, that just came out. You have the workbook. How does all of this correlate with what you do in, let's call it, the physical world or the real life world when you work with people?
Right, that's a great question. So to give you a little background on these books, my first book was created because it was a compilation of life coaching columns that I wrote for a magazine. So there was a local magazine here called Underwired. It was a women's magazine. Each month had a theme, and I had the privilege to create a coaching column that I wrote for 6.5 years. So that first book was really a compilation in order of which I wrote them. I was approached by my publisher last summer to consider a second edition. And when I sat down to look at it, this book, The True You Reimagined, is really a product of going back through the material, deleting a lot of it, adding new material. I've reorganized it into 6 sections. Uncover your authenticity, cultivate balance and being, pursue passion and play, enhance your relationships, enrich your work, and break free. And these 6 subsections are what I feel like are the most important things that I really work on with people in my coaching practice. So, I start in my coaching practice always doing the work to understand who someone is through their values and what's important to them and their priorities and their strengths, and getting a really solid foundation. And so this work aligns with that. I'm able to work with a client and say, for instance, if they're thinking about, their relationships, I can send them to a chapter or 2 in the book and say, I think these will supplement what we're talking about. And these are important chapters that really speak to the information. For example, I have a chapter in there called Claim Your Success. And something I give a lot of speeches on is how to step up your success, and what does success look like, and how do you define success, and what are the keys to success. So in my book, I talk about 5 keys to success: passionate determination, cultivated clarity, confident believability, empowered action, and sustainable self-care. And these are 5 areas that I really work with a client on about these are the things it's going to take to create success and hold on to it and keep success going. So in my book, you can go and read my thinking behind this. There's coaching questions. And then in the companion workbook, I have exercises that actually support trying to create success and really deep success that's tied back to who you are and your values, not just, oh, let me take these action steps and hope it all works out. So everything's very integrated. Everything I create, I want it to really be something that's meaningful for people, that has depth to it. This is my thinking that comes from almost 20 years of coaching, trainings, my own spiritual and personal work that I continue to do. And it's all kind of come together. And I'm especially excited about the workbook because there are about 50 different exercises that I created that are my tools, that I'm actually giving my coaching tools out to the world to help people become better versions of themselves.
Wow, that's pretty phenomenal when you think about it, because all of these coaching tools, coaching is one of those things, like for a while, the term life coach, people would kind of grin and shake their head at it. But I wanted to ask you about that, about being a life and leadership coach. Who are the people that seem to be your ideal clients when they come to you? What type of person really benefits from working with you?
Yeah. Right. That's a great question. When I started out this business, part of it was with the intent to work with people either going through divorce, had just gone or considering divorce, and to use divorce as a launching point for a great life. I do have some of those clients, but my work has really evolved over the years. So I would say my primary target is really women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are, life's pretty good. They've accomplished a lot. They're in their careers. They probably have families, children, or they're at the other end of their career. They're looking at retiring, or they're right in that prime of, wow, this is my last shot. What do I still want to accomplish at this point in life? So that's really sort of my sweet spot. I do have men. I coach a lot of men, which has seemed to have happened in the last few years. I have another little specialty of coaching CPAs. I work for an accounting firm here. They create a coaching program, and I coach people at 4 different levels in their firm. But I think the really bottom line, the answer to what you're asking me is, the best client for me is someone who really wants to deeply look at themselves and make the changes. They're already in a pretty good place, but they just need that extra. It's like they're at 90%, they go from 90 to 100. And it's really, I give such compassion and warmth and trust with my clients. That's something that I've been able to cultivate pretty quickly. But I give them this huge permission to go out in the world and to really and truly actualize their dreams and to really step into that. So the simple answer is people who really have that deep desire that are committed to themselves. And I'll say one other thing, that I have a lot of clients that we work on self-confidence. A lot of women who feel really confident in the workforce, but maybe not quite as confident in relationships, or, they're just not quite, they haven't quite mastered it in all areas of their life. So
I'm listening to what you're saying, and it is interesting because often women coaches, they definitely will attract a lot of women who are seeking success. But like what you just said about the CPA firm hiring you, and you have the 4 different levels of coaching, because men, of course, need coaching too. And we're all anyone who's seeking success, we're trying to, become our best selves. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. And it's always interesting to me because a lot of times people will assume that you only work with one gender or the other.
Absolutely. And two, I have a client who's a man who's the president of a real estate company. that really came to me to maybe improve his leadership skills. But what I love about the way in which I approach my work, it's all personal too. So it's very integrated. We look at personal life and professional life, but we look at values, we look at strengths, we really help elevate his communication style, all kinds of ways in which we do it. And so it's really true that coaching, you're right, sometimes people think coaching is just for women and women do this work, but I would say half my client base right now are men.
I think it's important that people in general need a support system. And I think if you look at the really successful people, they often have several coaches in different areas of their life helping them to navigate all of these different things. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the BossUp project with Tam Luke. Why were you attracted to that particular project, the BossUp project?
Right. That's a great question. I was in the midst of my own books and writing and editing. And a friend of mine, Yumilka Rodriguez, who I believe has been on your show as well, and is another author in the book, said, hey, I just connected with this woman in LA and I'm going to do this project. And so I had an interview with Tam, and I decided to do it because me being part of the BossUp project gives me an opportunity to tell my story, to tell the personal story of where I came from and how I evolved into the work that I do. I think so often people assume because you're a coach, she has it all together. She has to be this certain person to be able to coach somebody. And I think what it does, it shows my reality, shows my authenticity, my vulnerability, the fact that I did go through this very difficult, heartbreaking divorce, took that experience and decided to create something from that. And so being part of her project gave me the opportunity to actually talk about it. With all the speaking and writing and things that I've done over the years, I really haven't talked a whole lot about that. I'm talking about, here are ways in which you can do something, but I thought it was time to also say, here's my story, here's how I bossed up, here's how I overcame my obstacles, and if I can do it, you can do it too. So I have a belief that we are not meant to, at least I say we like coaches, and whenever I have an experience, it's up for me to learn, grow, transform, and then put that back out in the world to better serve others. So I'm hoping that by me being involved in this project and telling my story will inspire others that they can really overcome their own obstacles, whatever that may be. It's not always divorce. It may be the loss of a home or a career or anything that you can, children going off to school, becoming an empty nester. That's a loss and transition for people. So my message is really to say, hey, I did it, you can do it, and life on the other side can be absolutely amazing. And you get to create it and choose what it is you're up to. So I felt just really blessed to be, and also getting to know the women in this project. There are, 14 other amazing women around the world who are doing some incredible things, and from their experience and the modalities in which they've chosen to do it.
Yes, I've been very fortunate because I've interviewed most of them, and you're absolutely right. Phenomenal women from all over the world who are bossing up. And I love that concept of, embracing whatever your life has been and is. And like you said, sharing yourself from this authentic place. And that is something, the fact that you with the BossUp project, you get to tell your story. And then, of course, the book is coming out in August. So that's a pretty phenomenal thing. And then again, you also are talking on other podcasts and sharing about what you're doing besides your personal story, but the fact that you've got your other books that are out there and the new BossUp book coming. So you're one busy woman. So if somebody wants to reach out to you and find out more, what's the best way to do that?
So I can be reached through my website. Well, you can email directly to me, Jennifer@excavive.com, and that's EXCAVIVE, or my website, and it's www.excavive.com. And on there, you can find out more about me and the types of coaching packages I offer, the different services I offer with coaching and speaking, although speaking is a little different right now. We're doing Zoom speaking instead of in person, as well as my books and that sort of thing as well. So all that's on my website.
So before I let you go, I want to ask you a little bit more about your speaking. So when you speak, what are your primary topics?
I've been tapped to do a few different things. So I often get tapped to come in and give an inspirational speech on life balance and to really examine. I take my audience through 8 different areas of life and we rate them, and that can be a lot of fun. So it's a great interactive talk that I do. In fact, I just did that for the Louisville Ballet in April, and it was actually, we had to do it through a Zoom and Facebook Live. Because I couldn't do we couldn't do it in person, live in person. So I talk on life balance. I have some speeches on leadership and using your strengths to really be your best leader, and doing work with the Strength Finder through Gallup and speaking on that. I also speak on passion and and how to really tap into your passion and creativity and how to live that in the world. And then my most recent talk that I've been actually asked to do quite a bit in the last couple of years is what it takes to be successful. And I mentioned that earlier in the interview, those topics or those aspects of how to really define what it means to be successful. And I have several other topics like how to give feedback, how to communicate powerfully. I've actually done some training on coaching skills for managers, teaching managers how to use the coaching-like skills. So there's quite a few topics that I speak on, and I love the speaking. I never thought that before I would do this. Years ago, before I became a coach, I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, and during that time, I did a tremendous amount of volunteer work. And my biggest fear in life was public speaking. I thought, wow, that would be the worst thing in life if I had to do it. And so I put myself in volunteer positions to get comfortable with that, and basically became junior league president, where I had to speak in front of audiences every month and got really comfortable with it. So the fact that I now speak and I get paid to speak is a total surprise from if you had known me 20 years ago. I would not have done it. So it's a lot of fun now, and I really enjoy it.
That's really super. So Jennifer Blair, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And again, everyone, it's Excavive, and Jennifer is going to be in Tam Luke's BossUp project. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before I let you go?
The last thing I'll add is say that I hope that audience members, listeners, will really check out our BossUp book, and as well as, of course, my own books. But the BossUp project, the fact that you have 15 women around the world has created this great synergy of what women can do when they come together. And I think it's a great example of that. So please check us out. Check out the other interviews on your show, because there are the women that you have connected with our project are all, each in their own right, phenomenal women, and hope that everyone will be inspired by that. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed being on your show today.
Thank you so much, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Women Innovators with Tammy Patzer. To learn more, please go to womeninnovatorsradio.com. And please do subscribe and share to spread the big messages and big missions to change the world.